Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to crochet this little narwhal. Today for the materials you're going to need two different colored yarns. You're going to want your main color. I'm going to use purple today. You're going to want some white. You're going to also want some stuffing. And you're going to want a needle, your crochet hook. I'm using a 5mm or an H, some scissors, and some safety eyes. You can get these at the craft store or online. So to get started, we're going to go in with our main color, find the end here. And I'm going to make a slip knot. You're going to want your hole pretty big for this because we're going to start out with crocheting 6 single crochets in the ring. Not too big. So I'm going to go in my loop here, bring up a loop. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to turn, and I'm going to crochet, single crochet, 6 single crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Once you have the 6, then you can close up your ring here, and then you're going to join. You're going to use a slip stitch, if I can get my hook in there, in the very last crochet here, the very first one I should say. I'm going to slip stitch in there. So now you got your little ring of 6. For the second row, I'm going to chain 1, and we're going to work in a round. So you're never going to actually turn through this whole thing. You're going to keep working in a round. For the second row, we're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch. So by the time you get done, you should have 12 stitches total. Oops. So I'm going to go into the first one here that I slip stitched in. I'm going to crochet 2. I'm going to crochet 2 in each stitch all the way around. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So at the end, you're going to slip stitch into your first crochet here. If I can get my crochet hook to get in there. There we go. Okay, so that was row 2. For row 3, you're going to chain 1, and in the first stitch, you're just going to do a single crochet. And then in the second stitch, you're going to put 2 single crochets. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. So 1 single crochet in that stitch, and then the next stitch, 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. You're going to do that all the way to the end. Okay, and then you're going to join in the very first one, and you're going to do a slip stitch. Let's see if I can get it on my hook. There we go. You might struggle with that a little bit, getting on your hook, because I know I do sometimes. And then for the 4th row, we're going to do pretty much the same thing, but a little bit different. You're going to chain 1, In the first stitch, you're going to do 2 single crochets, or I'm sorry, you're going to single crochet in the first 2 stitches. So there's the first stitch and the second stitch, and then the third stitch you're going to do the 2 single crochets. So let's do 2 here. And then you're going to repeat all the way around. So 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and 2 single crochets. Do that all the way around to the end. Okay, and then we're going to slip stitch into the very first stitch here. Okay, and for our 5th row, we're going to single crochet into the first 3 stitches. And there's first stitch, second stitch, third stitch, and in the 4th stitch we're going to do 2 single crochets. There's 1 and there's 2, and you're going to repeat that all the way around. So 1, 1, 1, and 2. So 1, 1, 1, and 2. Do that all the way to the end. Okay, we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch here. For your 6th row, you're going to be doing the same thing for 6, 7, 8, and 9. You're going to single crochet all the way around for those rows. So 6 through 9 rows. You're going to do the exact same thing. Chain 1, crochet, single crochet in each stitch all the way around. Then when you're done with your round here, you're going to slip stitch into the first crochet stitch here, single crochet, and then chain one and do it all over again. All right, now that we're done with row 9, we're going to switch to the white color. So leave a nice end here of the purple and cut. And then I already slip stitched into the first one, but I'm going to take that slip stitch out and I'm going to replace the slip stitch with the white slip stitch. So I'm going to stick my crochet hook back in the top of that stitch, and I'm going to pull the white through and then through the loop that's on my crochet hook, tighten the purple up and then tighten the white up. And then for this one, for row 10, we're going to be working in the back loops here. I can see the purple doesn't show up very well, but in the back loops here, we're going to be working in back loops for this one. You're going to single crochet all the way around. So let's chain one, single crochet in the back loop of the first stitch, and single crochet in the back loops all the way around. Okay, now that we made it all the way around, we're going to slip stitch in the first single crochet here. And what we're going to do is we're going to flip it inside out so the right side is out. And we're going to attach our eyes. So if we're the seam here, we're going to keep that to the back. So it should look like a little shell like that. I'm going to take a couple of my safety eyes out here. Now the safety eyes are going to be a little bit tricky of putting on. I have a hard time putting the eyes on, so if you have a hard time, that's fine too. You're going to want to make sure they're about the same distance apart. And I usually put them like 8 stitches apart. So I'm going to take my hook off. So I'm going to find the front. Here's the seam in the back. And I'm going to just stretch it out a little bit. And you're going to do this in 2 rows up from the white row you just did. And I'm going to count 8 stitches. I'm going to find my seam again. So we'll move over just a little bit. So there's 2, 4, 6, and 8. So you're going to put your your eye through the stitch. That way it will stay in there. And it might be a little tricky to get it in the stitch. So you might have to work it in there just a little bit. It should pop through like that. So I'm going to count it again. 6, 8. So I can find my little stitch here to put it in. I like to wait to put the backs on until I actually look at it to see if I like where the eyes are at. And I also look at the back. I mean, the back's not completely in the middle, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. So we're going to flip it over now that we got the eyes in the places that we want them. And we're going to put the backs on. This can be a little tricky, so I might struggle here. You may struggle a little bit too. We'll see if I can get them on. I know I struggled with these all the time, trying to get these on. Okay, to make it easier on myself, I put the back on, and now it is safely on there. I went out to the garage and I grabbed my husband's pliers, and it makes it a little bit easier because then you're not straining your fingers here. So I'm going to stick the back on here. Oh, that one might go on by itself. Nope, never mind. And I'm going to clamp it on here if I can get it to straighten up. The eyes are always the trickiest part. There we go. All right. Now we got our eyes on. You got his cute little eyes. The only thing I don't like about the purple yarn is you can't see the eyes very well, but it's still going to be cute. So now we're going to continue again. I got too many tails here. It's hard to tell which one's which. So we're going to continue again. I'm going to flip it back inside out so I can work this way. Put my hook back in. And for row 11, we're going to do single crochet in the first 3 stitches. So let's chain 1. And we'll do 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to do a decrease single crochet. So for this one, you're going to put your crochet hook in the next stitch, bring a loop through, and now you're going to go into the next stitch, bring another loop through, and you're going to pull your yarn through all 3 of those, and now you just decreased. So now you put it through 2 crochets, and that is how you decrease. So we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And now we're going to decrease again. Go into your stitch, bring a loop through, next stitch, bring a loop through. Should have 3 loops on your crochet hook. Bring your yarn through, and there's your decrease. I'm going to repeat that all the way to the end. 3 single crochets in the next 3 stitches, and then decrease. Okay, and this last one here is going to be a decrease. And then you're going to slip stitch into the first single crochet. And now I'm going to flip my thing right side out now. And I'm going to work this way. And I'm going to make sure all of those are taut. I'm going to tie these 2 together. That way they don't come undone. That way they're inside, so you won't have to weave these in. But I'm going to tie those 2 together. And I'm going to just stuff those inside, and we'll forget about those because you won't need to do any of that. And now for row 12, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in the first 2 stitches here. So there's your 2 single crochets, and we're going to do a decrease. And then you're going to repeat that all the way to the end. 2 single crochets in the next 2 stitches and decrease. Okay, we're going to slip stitch in the first single crochet here. Okay, and for the row 13, you're going to single crochet, well, we're going to chain 1 and single crochet into the first stitch and then decrease into the next 2 stitches. And you're going to do that all the way around. So 1 single crochet in the next stitch and decrease into the next 2 stitches. And repeat that all the way to the end. Okay, and now we're going to slip stitch in the very first stitch we did to end our row. Get it in here. There we go. Okay, so now before we actually finish our very last row, we're going to stuff it. So I'm going to take some of my stuffing, and I'm going to take a little bit at a time here. I'm going to stuff it in there. Pull my tail out of the way. You don't want to put too much stuff in. You don't want it to be too hard or anything like that. So sometimes you just have to eye how much you put in. And you just give it a little bit of a squeeze and figure out how much, if you need to put more in or not. Maybe just a tad more. All right, looks good to me. So now this is going to be a little bit tricky now because you have stuffing in there, so it might be a little tricky. Excuse me. We're going to do our very last row. We are going to chain 1 and we're going to decrease all the way around. So decrease in the first 2 stitches. Decrease in the next 2. Decrease in the next 2. Oops. This always seems to be like the hardest row for me, all the way at the end. That's always the hardest one for me, is the very last one where I'm decreasing all the way around. And you're also pulling out a little bit of stuffing too because you got that on your hook. Sometimes you grab it with your hook. Alright, one more decrease here. Oop, too far. Okay, and then you're going to slip stitch into the first decrease here. Now you are almost done. You're almost done with this. So now that we got that on there, I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail, cut it off, pull it through my loop here. Oops. All right. I'm going to do the top one first. So we got this here, the very top tail. I'm just going to pop that through like that and just cut it off. It's not going to unravel or anything, so you should be okay with that. Excuse me. Okay, so for the bottom part, I'm going to put my yarn in my needle here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of tighten this hole up because it's still pretty big. So I'm going to go through the first stitch here. I'm going to do, well, do I want to do it through the whole thing? Let's do it through the top, the whole thing here. Kind of put it underneath and then go under the next stitch, pull it through, and keep doing that all the way around through all 6 stitches. And then you can pull it taut and it'll make your hole smaller. The white might look a little bit different. It'll have more holes in it just because you decreased all the way around. So don't be worried if it looks like your holes are a little too big. It's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. Oops. And we're gonna tighten it off here with a nut, and I'm just gonna stick my yarn through and cut it off. So now that we got our body done, we're gonna set that aside for a little bit. We're gonna use our purple yarn here, and we're gonna make the fins. So make a slip knot. These are really simple. That's what I really like about these fins. They're super simple. So we're gonna chain one in your loop here. If I can do it. There we go. I'm gonna turn, and I'm gonna single crochet 4 single crochets in this loop here. All right, so single crochets, 4 of them. Just pull your end taut. So now you're gonna have a little bit, and we're gonna cut, and that is your fin. And we'll pull it through here so it doesn't unravel. And there's your first fin. It's a little small, but once you attach it, it'll look really, really cute. So we're gonna set that one aside here. And we're gonna make our second one. Make your slip, whoops. Let's make that tail a little longer. Make your slip knot. Chain 1. Turn and do 4 single crochets in your loop. Oops. Struggling a little bit here. Okay, we got that done. Pull it taut. Cut our end. Pull it through. And there's your second fin. So now we got the fins done. We're gonna do the tail, and the tail is gonna be the purple also. So for the tail, what we're gonna do is we're gonna chain 5. Oops, make my slip knot here. And we'll just chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in the chain, third chain from your hook, so 1, 2, and 3, you're going to do a double crochet into this third chain here. And in the next chain, you're going to do a half double crochet. Oops, I got that one a little too close there. There we go. All right, and in the very last chain, you're going to slip stitch. So there's half the tail. So next you're going to chain 5 again. And we're going to do the same thing. So on the third chain from your hook, I'm going to do a double crochet. And second chain, half double crochet. Oh, come on. There we go. And very last chain, you're going to slip stitch. Okay, now that you're done with that, we're going to cut our end here and pull it through our loop to make the knot. What I like to do is I'm going to take my 2 ends here and I'm just going to tie them together in the back like that. I'm going to do a double knot here so that way it doesn't come out. So now you have your little tail. It's gonna look, when you put it on, it's gonna kind of look like that. And it might be closed up a little bit, but it's gonna look really cute. So now that we're done with the tail, we're gonna go on with the tusk. And this, for the tusk, you're gonna go in with the white yarn. So what we're gonna do for the tusk is we're gonna do a slip knot here. And in our slip knot, we're gonna single crochet 5 single crochets. So I'm gonna chain 1. I'm going to turn, do 5 single crochets in your loop. Okay, now that we did that, I'm going to tighten it up a little bit, and we're going to slip stitch in the first stitch here. Okay. And for our next row, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to do a single crochet in the next 4, in the first 4 here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in this last single crochet here, we're going to do 2 single crochets. So you'll have a total of 6 single crochets. And slip stitch into the first single crochet. Go. And for the next row, we're going to chain 1. And you're going to single crochet into the first 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, that was 5. So now that we got 5 on there, in the very last stitch, you're going to put 2 single crochets. And slip stitch into the first single crochet. And for our next row, it's going to be 6 through 4 row, and you're going to just single crochet all the way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it right side out, and I'm going to work that way. Makes it a little bit easier. And we're on row 4, so single crochet for the next few rows here, all the way around. Slip stitch in the first single crochet, go on to the next row and do the exact same thing. Single crochets in every stitch all the way around. Okay, let's slip stitch in the first single crochet, and we are on our last row. For the last row, chain 1, and then single crochet all the way around in every stitch. Okay, let's single crochet in the very last one here, and you're gonna slip stitch in the first single crochet, and we're gonna cut our end here, and you're gonna want to leave a pretty big end here because we're gonna have to tie this onto the body. So let's pull it through to make our knot. Whoops, took off with it. There we go. So now we're done with that. I'm gonna stuff the one end. Let me just make sure my end's okay. It's tight enough. We're going to just stuff that end into the tusk. If I can get it in there without grabbing the other end. Okay, and you're going to stuff just a tiny bit of stuffing in it. You don't want it too much stuffing because you don't want it popping at the ends. It might be kind of hard. I usually push it in with my crochet hook because it makes it a little bit easier because it's a small area to get it in. You want the tusk, you want enough stuffing in there to where the tusk is solid. Not too solid, but solid. So there you go. There's our tusk. So now that we have all of our accessories for the narwhal, we're gonna attach them. So first thing we're gonna attach is the tail. I like to attach the tail first. So what I'm gonna do for the tail is I'm gonna go into the back side and about find the middle of the eyes. It's kind of hard to find the middle of the eyes, so I just go all the way to the end, make our way around. So it's gonna be about 1 stitch over from our seam here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just one of the ends. And I'm going to pull it through around that stitch from a seam. And so now that we have that on there, we have our other tail here, and we're just going to tie those two together tightly to attach the tail. Do a double knot here. And there's your tail. Now that you got your tail on, we're going to take those ends while we're still on this one. I'm going to cut them about the same length, that way they're not going crazy on me. Put them on my hook, or put them on my needle here. And I'm just going to stick them through. Oh, I'm caught on something. Okay, pull it through, pull the ends through, and chop off the excess. Okay, so now that you have your tail on, we can go on with the fins because we got our eyes and our tail. Now you can find about middle of the body, so go from your loop here on the top and just figure out where the middle of the body is, and then you can figure out where you're going to put your fins. So let's do the one side of it. I'm just going to go along with my needle here, and I'm going to find a stitch. So we're going to go with this stitch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what side I want this on. Let's do this side. And I'm going to take, well, let's take this one. So let's go this way. Oh, now I got to figure out where I did it again. You will lose it sometimes. I lose it all the time. Go down, go under like that. There we go. So we're going to put one of the tails of the fin through our needle here. If I can get my yarn to go through. Come on. There we go. And I'm going to pull that through. And I'm just going to do what I did with the tail, and I'm going to tie the two ends together. And that's how you attach your fin. Get back on there. There you go. Do a double knot. And we'll take our ends here, and we'll just pull them through the body. Pull it through the top here, and we'll cut the excess off. Now we got one fin on. So now that you have one fin on, it's going to be, well, I don't know if it's going to be easier or a little harder to find the middle. Just figure out where your fin is and kind of go from there. So let's do, looks about center. It's a little off, but it might be, because the next one might be a little too much. Yeah, we'll do with this one. So for that, we're going to do do the exact same thing. Put one of the tails into your needle here. And you're going to pull it through and do a double knot with the tails. Pull it tight. Do a double knot. Okay, and then we're going to put our tails on our needle again and pull them through the body. And cut off the excess. Okay, so now that we have all those on, now we can go ahead with the tusk. Now the tusk might be a little bit harder because it's going to be a little difficult to figure out if you want it, depending on how high you want it. For the one that I have as a demonstration, wow, I can't speak today. I have it up 3 rows. So I'm going to try, let's do 1, 2, 3. So you're going to do it about here, and then you kind of just find the middle. So about right there. So I'm going to put my tail here in my needle, and then I can go and find it. So 1, 2, 3. So let's start it right about here. Just pull it up. You can do it this way. And I'm just going to grab the edge here, bottom edge, and just sew it on. And you want to be careful when you're sewing it on to try to keep it center with the eyes, because you don't want it to be kind of cockeyed and it might look a little weird. I mean, if it's not completely centered, that's okay too. It's not a big deal. I don't think anyone's going to notice unless they're a perfectionist. I'm not a perfectionist, so I don't really care if it's in the middle or not. Okay, so now that we're at the end, we'll finish this up. And we're going to make a knot here. Okay, yarn, cooperate with me. And we'll just pull our end through the body. Too tight. And we'll cut off the excess. And there you go. There's your little narwhal. Really, really cute narwhal.